To the very special person watching this broadcast, hello, beautiful, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Taboo Talk, featuring your very own pastor, me, Lady Charmaine Day. Today's show is guaranteed to be full of sensitive, intimate, natural conversations rarely talked about in the spiritual community. So now get ready for your spiritual consultation. Are you ready? Great, let's begin. How are you doing, wonderful? I know you are beautiful, incredible, marvelous, phenomenal, and special, because those are all adjectives I would use to describe you. You simply are marvelous, wonderful, and beautiful, and you bring joy to so many people on your home and in your community. You are so very kind, uplifting, nurturing, and you're a blessing to all whom you meet. So let me give you a warm round of applause for being so kind, uplifting, and nurturing. Yay! Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. God works through people, and he is working through you to bless others. I want you to know that God is with you wherever you are, and you make God look great. So keep up the good work. I have a few announcements before beginning the show. If you haven't already, please download onto your Android and iPhone the Lady Charmaine Day app. It's my free gift to you for being part of this ministry. The Lady Charmaine Day app has features that allow you to listen to Taboo Talk from your phone, watch Taboo Talk from your phone, also read my blog, and call in with prayer requests. I will pray with you and let you know what scriptures I'm standing on for you. And there's a QR scanner and a tip calculator for your convenience. So please download the Android and iPhone Lady Charmaine Day app today. Also, please visit my website, www.ladycharmaineday.com. There you can learn more about the ministry, learn more about Taboo Talk, see up-to-date pictures and videos, read my Facebook fan page, and receive free gifts. And while at www.ladycharmaineday.com, please visit the store to make a purchase. I thank you in advance for visiting the site, learning more about the ministry, and making a donation or purchase. It's through your purchases and donations that I'm able to continue my ministry. And my ministry is done online through Taboo Talk, virtual show, through my social media, through my app, and through my website. So if you're following me through one of those mediums, I consider you to be a part of the ministry, and I want you to know that I pray for you all the time. And my last announcement before beginning the show is this. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of Taboo Talk. Thank you for watching today. Without you, there would be no show. So thank you for watching. God bless you. Well, now I'm so happy to announce that we're in the presence of a living legend in the mental health advocacy world. I have Tina Lee here with us. She is going to be presenting and talking to us about the lived condition of a family member who has people living with mental illness. And she's going to teach us how to stay well, healthy, mind, body, and spirit. But first, let me tell you about Tina. Tina Lee is Director of External Relations at the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. Tina has held former positions at the National Alliance of Mental Illness as the Community Education and Outreach Manager, NAMI, New York State, and the Executive Director for the NAMI Mid-Hudson chapter. Her passion for mental health stemmed from her own daughter's battle with mental health, addiction, and suicidality. In 2016, Ms. Lee was appointed as a member to the Statewide Multicultural Advisory Committee, SMAC, with the Office of Mental Health, and is currently a member on the New York State Suicide Prevention Advisory Task Force. Ms. Lee is certified to teach several NAMI programs and suicide prevention programs, such as Family Connections, through the National Education Alliance Borderline Personality Disorder Suicide Safety for Teachers, ASIST, and Youth Mental Health First Aid. Help me by helping you welcome this living legend, Miss Tina Lee. Hi, Tina. How are you?
Hey, that was a really nice introduction. I'm certainly not a legend, okay? I come in very far second from you. You are the living at legend.
Oh, thank you, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me. We had a chance to talk a little bit before we started. This has been a journey. You mentioned my beautiful daughter Allie. It's every day has been a battle uphill, but it's worth it. And I think that's the thing that we have to really remind ourselves that recovery doesn't come overnight. It's an everyday action, and as a family member, your reaction is equally as important. On how to best support your loved one. And I took a lot of time, as you mentioned, about suicide prevention. Allie had high rates of suicidality. So I've taken about, probably 10 plus years to learn about what is suicide, talk to suicide survivors, how best can I respond? And I learned a lot, and, I'll talk to you today and share with you, those, as you mentioned, those pearls of wisdom of, what I learned, and not everything will, maybe resonate with everybody out there, but I certainly know that, a few of those things on the list I learned from other folks, and I think they're worth sharing. So thank you so much, Lady Charmaine, for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome so much, Tina. I'm so proud to have you here. You're a phenomenal person, and I've known you for some time, and I'm really grateful for you to be a part of this show. And so let's just dive right into your 21 pearls of wisdom for total mind, body, and spirit wellness while you're taking care of a loved one who has a mental illness or other condition. And let's talk about that.
Sure. Okay. So I think the number one that I started out with, and it's certainly not like the, priority on everything, but I think it's a good thing to think about is, make mental health a priority in your life. Not even just in your immediate community, but in your community that you thrive in. I know, being, from Asian culture, we just don't talk about mental health. We don't even have a word for mental illness. Basically it's crazy. So when my daughter Allie was diagnosed with mental illness, I went to talk to my parents about it, and my dad literally said, "Oh, what? You mean Allie is crazy?" And I thought, well, yeah, if you're speaking in Chinese, that's the closest thing we have. So I think a lot of it has to do with cultural stigma. Being afraid to talk about something that is so critical in our life, because I think all of you can agree that if your brain doesn't work, you're not going to do well in life. Without your mental health, you really have no health. But how do you start talking about that when you have a culture that doesn't even have a word to equate with that? So I think the second thing on my list is education. Ask. Incorporate the way I see is emotional hygiene in your life. So I always like to hear this example, as if you have a 2-year-old, right? You ask them, what do you do if you have a cut? And I guarantee you they will know what to do. They'll say, I'm going to go get a Band-Aid, or I'm going to go ask mommy and daddy, or my grandma, or somebody in their social circles for help, right? Or go to 911, go to the hospital. Those are things that, we take for granted. The physical hygiene, we all know, the earlier you address it, the better chances of, being well. Just like going to your, OBGYN, your doctor every year to get checked, to check up, we know how to have that conversation. But I think when it comes to mental health, we just don't do a very good job at it, frankly, so, learn, what it is to be mentally well, and also learn the signs and symptoms of somebody or yourself, if you're not doing well. And, I think, it's hard to start a conversation when nobody knows that language. So I, highly encourage, I think Lady Charmaine will agree, go reach out to Nami. You don't have to have illness to be involved with Nami. You don't have to have illness, whether a loved one or yourself, to reach out and get education. There's our websites are really great. There's so much information. I know a lot of students take the website information, use it in their reports. Ask somebody with mental health issues. I'm really open. People ask me about Allie or my journey. I'm very open to talking about it. I think once we bring down those barriers, you'd be surprised at how many people in your social circle that has or struggle with a mental health issue. I think we look at the stats, right? 1 in 4 Americans, 1 in 5 youth. I guarantee you, hands down, that your coworker, maybe even a close friend, your family member, maybe struggling. And I think, at one point in our life, we all at one point struggle emotionally with something. Life's not, this wonderful rainbows and unicorns. I know later, Charmaine, you and I were talking about this pandemic, I mean, nobody anticipated that we're going to be living through a pandemic, right? So
that's the truth.
Right. And I know that a lot of my friends who have been mentally well for quite, as long as I've known them, they're struggling right now with some depression or anxiety because of loss of job. Some of them have even unfortunately lost a loved one to COVID-19. It's so important, again, as we all say, education's power, particularly when it comes to mental health. Learn about it. It's so fluid. And because we can't see it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So I think that's the more challenging part, is that, how do we know? So if somebody has a heart attack or, that cut on their arm, we typically know, right? But when it comes to mental health, do we know if somebody's experiencing depression or anxiety, that quote unquote mental health heart attack, right? So I think my third step is, it's really important to know where to go to get that help. I wanted to throw out some numbers and stuff too, because I think it's so important that, again, we all know that if somebody is having a physical distress situation, we call 911, right? Or we know who to call. On my phone, I have local apps. I even have, like the Nami National's phone number, which is 1-800-950-NAMI. Or if you're in crisis, you can text NAMI to 741-741. NAMI New York State right now has a wonderful helpline because of COVID too. Their phone number is 518-248-7634. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, also, I put that in my phone because, again, if you're in crisis, the last thing you want to be doing is Googling these phone numbers. You're wasting precious time. Their phone number is 1-800-273-8255. And also the organization, as Lady Charmaine mentioned, the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, we have also a helpline, and it's soon to go 24/7. The phone number is 866-232-8484. So if you're struggling, with a family member that's experiencing cognitive difficulty, and they may be having, some mental health issues, or even they're just struggling, you can call, text, chat. Many of these the phone numbers that I mentioned to you, you can text, and if you're kind of, embarrassed maybe or uncomfortable talking to somebody on the phone, you can always text, and I know our AFA helpline is available in 90 languages. So, I think, going through that 1, 2, 3, make it a priority, get that education, know where to go, because like I said, we all know if the house is burning, we know where the exits are, right? We know, who to call. But when it comes to mental health issues, I think a lot of us are sort of in the dark, right? And I think it's so important to, number 4 on my list is what I like to say is build your tribe, okay? Find people that get you, and especially when it comes to mental health, right? Because, we know that, I think ideally, if you said to your friend, I'm struggling with some mental health issues, you don't want your friend to say, you know what, snap out of it, child, or, or shake it off, or, you know what, go shopping. Because, I remember my dad used to say that to me when I would tell him about Allie. My dad's like, I think maybe go take her shopping, as if retail therapy was going to, make it go away. And, that would have been the easy solution, right? But, again, my dad got educated, my mom got educated. They no longer respond that way. Instead, they're more wow, that sounds like it's hard. What can we do to help, right? So I think it's really important to find, friends and family. And sometimes, your family member may not understand it either, right? Or maybe your friends may not understand. And, come to Nami. I hate going back to Nami, but, I think Lady Charmaine, you'll agree with me. I mean, we call it our Nami family, right? We get it, okay? I mean, I remember my friends would say to me, oh, how's things going, right? And I thought, how am I going to say to them that my daughter kicked a hole in the wall, the police were called, she ended up in the hospital, okay? And, and she tried to die by suicide. That's not a typical conversation you would have with your friends. Usually you would say, well, yeah, it's going okay. Or, oh yeah, my kid couldn't pick up their socks, or oh, my husband was being a pain in the neck, that's the typical, the response, right? But not, oh my God, my kid tried to kill herself,
Wow.
And, when I found a bunch of friends and my Nami family, I knew I could at any time, say anything to them and there would be no judgment. It was more of a, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What can I do to help? Can I bring food to you? Can I help, clean your house? Can I just sit with you? I mean, we always say that, mental illness is not a casserole illness. You don't get a casserole. When my mom had breast cancer, and oh my gosh, everybody came out to help my mom, but when Allie had her psychotic breaks and her suicide attempts, which were many, my friends, a lot of them didn't know what to do. They either kind of just, like shut down and disappeared, or they just looked at me like, and I ended up being a therapist to them, when I needed the emotional support, so I think it's very important. You can have the friends that you go out and have a good time and have dinner with, but make sure you have your mental health support friends, and, if you can't find anybody, again, get in contact with Nami, because, these are strangers that they're not there to make judgment on how much money you have, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you have, right? They're there because the same reason as you, right? They want you to be mentally well, whether as a caregiver or an individual with mental health issues, So I think, build your tribe, make it strong, and you'd be surprised at how big your tribe will be when you start talking about it, because as soon as I started talking about it, I had friends that knew, like me and my kids when they were little in a play group, and 3 of them, one had a sister who had bipolar disorder, one struggled with depression, the other one's husband had also bipolar disorder. I never talked about that. We talked about everything, but except for that. And once we opened up, we really became super close friends because we knew that we had something so much in common. Going through it was difficult. So we had that extra layer of a relationship. It wasn't just that sort of, I don't want to say superficial, but the first layer, right? And we all know relationships are built on those layers. The deeper it goes, the more you can depend on them. So, I'm really glad that, I have that tribe, and for my daughter too, her friends know that when, maybe she may not text back that day, or she's sort of exhibiting some behavior that's not mentally healthy, they're willing to come and step up to the plate. Sometimes they even text me. They'll say, I texted Allie, 4 times yesterday and she didn't respond to me. And she's maybe posting something not right on Facebook. I'm just kind of worried about her. I'm just letting you know, and I appreciate that because, she's an adult. I can't be there 24/7. So, I'm very grateful that her friends are not there to judge her. They're there to be a friend, so that's important. Number 5 was something.
Wait, let me stop you before you move on, Tina, and just say that the first 4 pearls that you have shared are awesome. Educate yourself. Surround yourself by people who are your tribe.
That's right.
Learn as much as you can, and so you have the numbers and all the data in your file when you need it.
That's right.
Because that is so important. And also having people who around you who care about you and who understand mental illness and who understand the signs and symptoms and who themselves got educated so they could support you is very important.
Absolutely.
Those are all things I have done in my family as well to survive. And so I find that those are awesome pearls.
Right. And right? Not every, like, family to me doesn't mean always, like blood, right? I mean,
right.
Like sometimes I realize, I have a sister that maybe not understand it as much, and I'm not going to turn to her, when I'm struggling maybe with Allie, or trying to figure out what to do. I tend to go to my Nami family, because they, they're not into the, oh, well, this and that and the other. They go straight to the meat of it and say, okay, you know what, this is what you're telling me, share with me what your feelings are. So, just remind yourself that, don't ding your family members either. If they don't get it or, they can't, that's okay. I mean, we've got to love, people in your circle differently, and they're there for different purposes, but I find that, if you find, that Nami family for mental health, I tell you, hands down, if that person is a Nami person, it's like my daughter says, she doesn't have one mommy, she has several Nami mommies.
Yes.
Like she knows that, I will say something and then maybe another, like program director, Joanne Brown at Nami Mid-Hudson, that's her forever Nami mommy. Like Joanne always is there. I know I have another friend, Kathy Frame, same thing, if they, they know that I'm not so close to Allie in distance. If Allie needs something, they're there, so I appreciate that, so again, I think those are so important to have. To me, those are the foundations, to have your mental health, and the wellness. And also, if you have illness, how to sustain your recovery, right? So is it okay to go on to number 5?
Yes, yeah? Please do.
Okay. So number 5 is something that I learned with my daughter's illness, that her major diagnosis is borderline personality disorder. So I really practice something called dialectical behavior therapy. And it's a big fancy word. You hear sometimes people saying DBT. She struggled with addiction as well. So the DBT really helped her stay in recovery. But I'm like, the next few things I'll talk about sort of fall under this DBT thing. And it's a complicated therapy. Not every therapist is trained to do it. And also as the recipient, it also takes a lot of practice, and so, I'll tell you a little bit about it. And I tell you, this way of living, I wish I learned in my early 20s. And I also recognize that, you don't have to have illness to do this, it works literally for everybody. So one of the things I learned, and I kind of called it learning to bend reality. Okay. So, if you're given a set of circumstances and it's not going your way, we tend to say, oh, gosh, I cannot believe this happened to me. Why me? This is not fair, and I can't move forward. You get stuck in this really toxic situation. So when Allie became ill, I was like, oh my gosh, was it something I ate when I was pregnant? Was it something that I did when I was parenting? Why did I, why am I in this situation? I'm a good person. I pay my taxes, right. Like, what's going on, right? And it just really, it sucks the life out of me, literally. And Lady Charmaine, you can't be that way because you have an X amount of energy, right? You have to use it efficiently, right? So when I say bending reality is the way I see things is that, things happen to you for a reason, and they are really there to benefit you. Maybe at that time, you may not understand why this is happening to you because it doesn't make any sense, but guarantee down the line, you will come to a point where you're going to say, you know what? And I think, in a lot of spiritual learning, like Eastern learning, Christianity, Judaism, it's that, what is it? What makes you stronger, right? Those things that make you stronger, right? I mean, again, not everybody wants to hear like, oh, really? Because I remember, my mother used to say that to me because she's very religious. And I thought, oh my gosh, I probably can walk on water right now. Really? I mean, all this stuff I'm going through does not make any sense. But when I started sort of and I know with Allie, she calls it flipping it. If something bad happens to you, okay, like for instance, like I didn't get this job that I really wanted, and I thought I was the perfect fit for it, right? And I kept on saying, you know, why is this happening? You know, I was the strongest candidate. I prepared, you know, I answered the questions right. You know, why didn't I get that? You know, and I could have be stuck in there, but I realized, you know, maybe that wasn't the right job for me, you know, like maybe that wasn't the right fit. And lo and behold, I got a job at AFA, you know, and, you know, I'm thinking it is, yeah, if I got the other job, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, you know, and I'm so grateful because right now, you know, I really love my job. You know, the salary is good, what I'm doing, reaching out to folks, you know, talking about dementia, and, you know, it's a platform that I'm passionate about because my dad's diagnosed with that. Okay. You know, months ago, I was in that negative place, but when I realized, okay, things do happen for a reason, right? So I think that really sets the landscape for you to stay in recovery, but also to be supportive of somebody that has mental health issues. Because if you start your day and end your day with that gratitude, you know, and to say, all right, you know what, today, I don't know why that happened to me, but, you know, it's going to make sense at one point. You know, you can move forward and do the next day, right? So number 6, this is sort of a thing that I think, you know, I've realized that, you know, we're all put on this earth for a purpose, okay? And, you know, being that global citizen is my number 6, because I think it's so important to get up in the morning and know that, you know, I need to be able to pay it forward that day. And I have a awesome friend, Cheryl Brahman. I want to mention to her because she's in my tribe, you know, and I know I can text her, call her whenever I need her, but she said something to me that really resonated. She's, you know, she's Jewish, and she said, you know, her rabbi said to her in a service, if you save one life, you will save an entire generation. And to me, you know, if you are a global citizen and you know that you should be paying it forward every day, who knows if you could save somebody's life, you know? That's really powerful, that if you could leave this earth knowing that you've made that type of impact. And, you know, I'm going to go back to Nami, but I present in a program called Nami Ending the Silence, where we go into schools and we talk to kids about mental health and wellness. And, you know, Allie also, we were like the mother-daughter team. And, you know, there were so many times where kids came forth saying that they were suicidal, or, you know, that they were going to look at their mental health, or they were going to help a friend, right? And I look at this now thinking, yeah, you know what? We made an impact, you know? It's pretty interesting. Like, you know, my older daughter is doing amazing things in her life, and she's like the model kid. And Allie, she's, you know, still moving along, getting her associate's degree and stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, I love my kids and everything, but everybody would probably surface say, well, Sophie is so successful, you know, but I look at Allie and I think, but you know what? She saved somebody's life, and probably plural, right? And to me, you know, that legacy of knowing that you saved somebody's life is so empowering for somebody who's struggling with a mental health issue, to know that I'm suffering, but I made a difference in somebody else's life, you know? And as a person, even if you don't have mental health issues, to me, being that global citizen means that you are having a purposeful life. You know, you're not just getting up in the morning and just saying, okay, I'm just going to go through the motions. Because I always tell my kids, life's not a dress rehearsal. You know, you got to do it, right? So being that global citizen takes, I think, some, you know, focus to know that, you know, every day you're going to do something positive for somebody else, and that's selfless. And then you're not going to ask for something in return, you know, like you're going to do it because you want to, you know. And I find that that's such a great way to end the day, knowing that, you know, hey, I made a difference in somebody's life, you know. And I have to say, like, Nami really saved my kid's life. And, you know, I feel like, you know what, I got to pay it forward too. You know, I'm so grateful that I'm able to have the tools that I learned from Nami to be able to, again, be a service to our community, right? So that's my number 6. Number 7, this took a lot of time for my daughter, but I think we all have to be accountable. And it's a weird thing to say, oh, how's that going to keep my mental wellness? But I'll explain a little bit. That what I realized was that what I did to help support Allie, whether it was positive or negative, my intent was to support her, but sometimes it didn't work. You know, I need to be accountable for that, you know? So, if I yell and scream at her, I learned that it wasn't very helpful to her. right? My intent was to keep her in recovery, but yelling and screaming and not being supportive of her and being judgmental of her really wasn't helpful. So I needed to learn to be accountable for my actions. So I needed to change, So, with Allie too, what I saw was as she moved toward and stayed toward recovery, she realized also that what her response was, like she either would swear at me or, as I mentioned, kick holes in the wall, steal, use drugs, alcohol. Her behavior also impacted me, the people around her, right? So I think it's so important when you are looking at staying mentally well, knowing that, okay, what my actions are there's always a reaction to, and there's always a consequence or a benefit. So it's important to, to me to see that, we are all part of this relationship. And maybe one day you may be doing 50% of it, maybe another day you may be doing 10%, but we all have a part in this universe. So, being accountable, I think really keeps us sort of on the main track, to know that, hey, if I'm going to do something reckless, that could impact somebody else's mental health and also impact your own mental health, right? So that's my number 7. Number 8 is an interesting one. It's the DBT thing is, we hear so much about being mindful. What does that really mean, right? Part of DBT is, actually a big part of it is to stay in something called wise mind. Instead of being all emotional or being too rational, which means, no emotion, which is not good either. You have to be sort of a subset of both of them. If you can do 50-50 of them, it's the best, but just really practice staying in the moment. So for instance, I hear a lot of my friends say, oh, I wish I did this, which is in your past. You can't control what happened in the past. It already happened, right? Or, oh, you know what? 2 weeks from now, a year from now, this is what I need to be focused on. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future, right? You have no idea. I mean, if we all could do that, we would be in a much better place, right? But what you can control is the here and now. That particular moment, that is what you can control. So, if you are talking about your health, right? Your mental health, what can you do right now to stay mentally well? That's really all you can do. And what can you do to support somebody that has mental health this here and now? Because if you don't enjoy the here and now, it's going to be the past, and you can't recoup that, and that is a really hard practice that takes a lot, because like during this pandemic, I know a lot of my friends are like, oh my gosh, you know what? I should have gotten groceries. I should have gotten more toilet paper, or I should have, did this, or I should have put more money away. Or, people thinking, well, what is, going to happen in the future? Oh my gosh, maybe I should stock up on this, or maybe I should be doing something different. We don't know. What you do know now is right here and now, what you can do, and I think that's given me a lot of peace. Yes.
We have a question from Omega.
Sure.
Omega, ask your question.
Yeah, you mentioned DBT. What exactly does DBT mean?
So it stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. So DBT is, what we think about when you either, our emotions span a spectrum of being too emotional, or you're not emotional at all, you're very rational, or you stay in that wise mind, which is a mixture of both. So staying mindful is one of the biggest skills in DBT, is to stay in the moment, and not to be too rational, because that's not good. Like, if you say somebody passed away in your family, you can't just be like, oh, well, you know what, that person's old, or that person was sick. You just, they passed away. That's part of life. That's not healthy emotionally, right? But it's also not healthy to go, like really, off the charts, right? And say, oh my gosh, this, and can't handle it. And you stop working, you stop having relationships, you stop getting out of bed because of that person passing away. So wise mind is, okay, you know what? I am so sad. I lost a loved one. Yes, that person was sick. We did the best we can. But, we do have to move forward, but I'm still going to grieve, so that DBT is basically, how do you deal with your emotions in a positive way? and that skill really is important with somebody who has borderline personality disorder, or if somebody has high rates of suicidality, because, with my daughter, if she lost something, it was just the end of the world. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't go on. And she literally would either go to suicide or would get so depressed she couldn't get out of bed. Or, she'd get very euphoric, be like, okay, I'm going to go and finish my school in, like 2 semesters, and which wasn't possible. But so she was at the other end, it was black and white. So using DBT really caught herself in a good place where she said, okay, I lost this thing. I have to deal with it emotionally and I have to deal with it rationally, right? I lost, say it was a pencil, right? Yes, I'm really sad because it was my really good, I really loved that pencil. I loved writing with that, but you know what? I can still get that. But yeah, I'm still sad, but maybe I can't get that pencil right here and now, but maybe I'll plan on getting that tomorrow. So she dealt with the situation in a positive way instead of, oh, I'm going to go, kill myself, or I'm going to go do drugs and alcohol, and for many people who don't struggle with, borderline, it's a really weird thought to think, wow, because you lost a pencil, you would do that. But, that's part of the illness. Her brain was not able to stop and say, okay, rationally, why would I go hurt myself because I lost a pencil, right? So this DBT is phenomenal. And I'll give you, there's an organization that also offers it free. But I highly recommend it because I realized it worked for everyone. So number 9 is sort of a part of the DBT too, is about the self-care. We talk about that a lot, right? What do we do for self-care, right? But I think, what's interesting is that we throw that term around a lot, right? And it's like, there's so many things people, go color, go write journal, listen to music. But I think you need to really take the time and have a conversation. What do you really like to do? Because I had to laugh. The other day, I bought a puzzle because everybody in my family loves puzzles and all my friends were doing puzzles during this COVID time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go buy a puzzle because everybody likes it. Well, my kids had a really big laugh because they asked me like how far I got in the puzzle, and we were Zooming, and I literally had taken the puzzle out on the table and there were a few pieces together, and my older daughter said, were those pieces that were already together in the box? Because that doesn't count. I was like, you're right. Because I realized, what? That didn't really do it for me. I don't like doing it. I literally, like, after it was on the table and was taking up space, I put it away because I thought, what? You don't like doing that, So I think it's, we talk, I do self-care, but are you really doing what you love to do? Take the time as a process to write it down, like put it on a piece of paper, right? And, it's interesting. Like my daughter, Allie, and I were discussing, as I said, I'm going on Lady Charmaine's show. And, I was going to talk about this. And, we came to this point and Allie said, I know what you really like to do. And I said, oh, you do? What do I like to do? And she listed off a few things, which I'll talk a little about. But one of the things I noticed, which I thought, wow, she really recognized that, was me making a cup of tea.
Wow.
I really take the time. Like I learned that from my dad. Like I never understood why he would heat up the cup first and then throw out the water, right? And then put the tea leaves in there and put the new hot water and swirl it around. And he never took the tea and like just drank it, he sat down and he really enjoyed the tea, And I realized you're right. That's, again, being mindful, right? Like we're all on the go, right? We eat dinner, we stuff it in our face, we prepare this beautiful meal. And then again, it's like, it's gone in 2 minutes, right? I realized, wow, you know what? You're right. I really enjoy that. And I savor the moment, And another thing, it was funny because Allie mentioned, which I thought was very interesting, was she goes, you like actually washing dishes. And, I thought, I do. And would I call it self-care? Maybe, yeah. To me, it was like, it's like a mindless process, but there's an end result that's positive, like everything's clean. But, I'm just standing there washing and, and enjoying the, like watching the, hearing the sound of the water rushing through, and it may seem silly to others, but if it's meaningful to you, and I always tell my kids, if it's legal and it doesn't hurt anybody else, okay, you know what, go ahead and do it, right? And so again, you don't have to have 20 million things on your list, but certainly have things that it's for you. It is not for anybody else, like I said, that puzzle never worked for me, and I'm going to cross that off my list. If anybody wants a puzzle, I will mail to you. So, but again, I think, and it takes time to try those things, and it may not come overnight, but keep that list, I think, fresh, and relevant, and think about things that, there's so many, like Lady Charmaine, you just mentioned you were taking a class online, that could be part of your self-care, right? I mean, maybe nobody would have thought of taking, like for some people, school and taking a class online. It's not for them, but it's for you, right? And nobody's going to be judging you, right? And so I think, again, making sure that if you don't have the ability to figure it out, go ask your tribe, see if they know you better, because sometimes they know you because they see you in your element. Wow, I noticed that you like doing this, and you may not think that that's something that you would enjoy, but when my daughter said making that cup of tea and you actually like washing dishes, I thought, wait a minute, this is a trick question. Like, you're not going to come to my house, you're not going to wash the dishes. But she said, you know what? I noticed you actually like doing that. You tell everybody, oh, go sit down and do. Yeah, you know what? I do. Right. So I think that's very important. That's self-care. The other thing I think is really important for caregivers is my number 10 is learning to set limits. It is so hard to set limits because, I used to think setting limits was for my daughter. And I realized, no, those limits are for me. It's for my self-preservation, a part of my self-care, right? So for instance, when my daughter was deep in her drugs and alcohol, I was not comfortable, as my friends were recommending me to do, kick your daughter out. Okay. Change the key on the, on the locks on your door. I couldn't do that. All right. I couldn't follow through. And that's the important thing with the limits. And I like to use limits instead of boundaries, because boundaries are very permanent and life's not permanent. It's fluid. So limits you can change, right? But you have to make sure you follow through. And when I said to my daughter, you know what, I can't make you stop doing drugs. That's something that you're going to have to decide on, but you cannot do drugs in my house because we live between two cops. Can't do it. I'm going to lose everything. Okay. So, I'm not condoning you to go do drugs, but you can't do it here. Okay. And I could follow through that, and it gave me wellness for me, my mental wellness, knowing that I wasn't encouraging her to do it, but this was my space. And for her too, it kept her sort of safe when she was in my house, so setting those limits, it's probably one of the hardest things to do, but you also have to listen to your inner self. What are limits good for you? Like, during this time, if you don't feel comfortable being with people, going out and having a drink, outside, social distancing, you're not comfortable with that and your friends can't accept that, maybe that's not, they're not good in your tribe, right? You have to set those limits, or maybe, you feel fine going out, right? You have to be okay with those limits too. So setting limits, so important, not only for the caregiver, but also for the individual. Number 11 is surrendering and being gentle with yourself. And I think we are all our biggest, culprits to saying, we're not doing a good job, we're self-defeatist. So it's okay, to say, it's not happening today, and we have to tell ourselves not every day is the same, and like I realized as a caregiver, my daughter has severe depression and some days she just couldn't get out of bed. And I just didn't understand it. I'm like, the sun was shining yesterday and you got out of bed, and today the sun is shining. Why can't you do it? And I had to really accept that it wasn't going to happen today, and it was okay. And I had to really be supportive and say, I'm so sorry you're not having that good day today. Okay. But tomorrow there's another day. And that's where that mindfulness comes in, and where that DBT, that's a didactic statement that today it's not happening, but it may happen tomorrow, and I think with that is that being hopeful that, tomorrow it may happen. And you got to tell yourself too, maybe the next day it may not happen either, but you can't stay in that hole, and for my number 12 kind of leads into the surrendering, and is that you got to practice forgiveness, you know, because it's so toxic to stay in that place of, you know, like, I hate you kind of thing. Like with my daughter, you know, there was some resentment because I felt like, you know, all my life I've taken care of my 2 kids. I'm a single parent, and, you know, Allie just wasn't moving forward in life. I felt like a failure. And I was really kind of getting mad at her for the situation. But once I told myself that, you know, we all are doing the best we can. And that's another DBT skill, is that right here and now, you know, I'm doing the best I can. The other person, my loved one's doing the best that he or she is doing, but we can all do better, you know, and to forgive, you know. And once I kind of did that clean slate every day, life was more palatable, you know, because I knew that Allie wasn't doing this on purpose. She loves me. You know, she knows how much I care for her. Why would she be purposely doing this, right? And with the drugs and alcohol too, I realized, why would she be doing this on purpose? You know, she's not purposely abusing drugs and alcohol. You know, she's doing the best she can right now. And I think once I started forgiving, you know, think that the burden wasn't so much on my shoulders. I was able to move forward, and Allie too. She realized, okay, I may relapse, which she did, you know, or I may not be having a good day, but mommy's not going to be mad at me. You know, she's there to support me, you know, so that forgiveness is so important.
Tina, we have a question from Gina.
Okay, sure.
Hold on a second, Gina.
I did it. I'm unmuted. So when you talk about that, you'll be able to forgive her. Have you been able to talk to her about forgiving herself?
Yes. So, you know, it's interesting. I think she, you know, during her recovery, she really learned about what recovery is. You know, recovery is not that straight line. It's not that beautiful upward plateau. As you know, my friend Joanne always says, it's like doing the cha-cha, right? One step forward, one step back. And, you know, I think what happened with Allie was that she realized, you know, relapse was part of that it wasn't going to be always perfect, you know, and that's a really great point, because once she forgave herself, you know, and, you know, she tried the 12 steps a little bit. And part of that is, right, forgiving yourself, but also making amends to others. That's where I kind of saw the maturity, you know, that she realized that what she did, she also was accountable for, but that, you know, she had an illness that, you know, there were times when she couldn't control herself, right? And to let it go, but to also, for us both to talk about it, you know, because I remember her actually asking me, what did it feel like with my first suicide attempt? You know, because she never understood, like, every time her attempts she would have, she literally was like, the next day, like, nothing happened, you know? And for me, it was so traumatic for me, you know? Like, I couldn't understand how she could just, like, now you want to go over to your friend's house, but you tried to kill yourself the other day, you know? I was holding on to that. So, you know, I think 2 years ago, we really had some honest, open discussion to talk about it, you know, and allowed me to forgive her, you know, because I was so resentful that she was doing this, but for herself too, that at that moment, she was in so much suffering and so much pain that was the only way she could see herself, you know, like, release herself, right? And for her to understand, you know, what she needed to do to pull herself back and to not ding herself for all those attempts, you know. So that's a great point, in that I think recovery is very important, that you do forgive yourself, you know, and know that we can always do better, you know, and to be positive, you know, that we're human beings, right? We're not robots. So that's a, you know, awesome, you know, point. So thank you so much for sort of emphasizing that. I think that's incredibly important.
Thank you. Tina.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know we're running out of time.
Sure.
If you could go over the rest of your list.
I'm almost to the end. So 13, we all know, we talk about exercise, right? But I think it's important to do the mental workout too. So always keep yourself, you know, what I like to, you know, say is, you know, do a brain health check, you know, because, you know, we all age, our brain changes, right? So take a memory screening test. I know on our AFA website, you can do one really quick, 10 questions, I think it's under 10 minutes, right? Try new things because we want to build resiliency so that you can keep your brain healthy and strong. It's just like, you work out, like it's a muscle, right? So make sure you do that. The next two are kind of intertwined, 14 and 15. Work your strengths and also work on your weaknesses, okay? Because working your strengths really builds your self-esteem, and you know that those are things that you can go to as a positive coping skill if you're not doing well, and as a caregiver, your job is to find what makes your loved one tick. Find that internal compass. Like I said, like I used to say to Allie, oh, maybe try this, maybe try that. She didn't like doing those things. It didn't matter how much money I spent, and all the friends, would do that. But, again, that self-care thing, it didn't work for her, right? It didn't resonate with her. So she really, I would give her lots of opportunities to figure out, but she actually had to be the one that had to decide on what those strengths were. So, really work the strengths, and then the weaknesses, try that too, because I think it gives you an opportunity to self-reflect. Because to me, every failure is an opportunity to grow. Okay. And so, we have to work on our intrapersonal skills, because if you don't have the ability to self-reflect or self-assess, you're not going to get yourself better, and as a caregiver, your loved one is not going to be able to have the resiliency to stay well. So I'm going to move really quickly through the 16 one, which is, and this is not stupid, but I really think it's important to have, treat yourself and boost your brain power with like a piece of dark chocolate, okay? Because they have flavonoids, caffeine, good stuff to improve your alertness and your mental skills and your diet. We talk a lot about eating well. Make sure, you eat, like fish is great, omega-3 foods, flax seeds, olive oil, something to build, good, it really, what am I trying to say? The diet really impacts how you feel too. And I think, we always talk about it, but, you got to really look at it. And, again, if you don't like eating those things, there's other things, but make sure it's in balance, right? And if anybody needs more information, we have a great webinar that we just did. Dr. Holland talked about diet and stuff. I found it really, really amazing that, wow, there's some things that we can do to decrease our, our brain, losing that cognitive muscle, So number 17 is enjoy sitting still, slow down. Okay. I don't think people, understand that slowing down is also building up, and I think giving yourself permission to be silent, it's hard. Okay. Because I think we are a culture that we, value people on how much stuff they do. So, it's not about the points, right? It's about recharging. So at this time, you can do that, right? The other thing is going off the grid. It's okay. And I don't mean like going, like ending your life by far, right? What I'm saying is you don't have to do social media every day. You don't have to connect with folks all the time, 24/7, right? It's okay to go off so that you can figure, again, what is your strengths? What are your weaknesses, right? As Lady Charmaine, you and I were talking, my daughter is expecting a baby in a few days, and we decided to not make it this big thing on social media because she wanted to just focus on herself. Because we all know friends can say things, positive and negative. I didn't want her to, fall off the wayside. And my dad always says, keep your eye on the prize. Okay. And so we decided to go off the grid, and so, I'll post a picture when Liam is born next week, but I was like, really, I really want to tell my friends. I really want, and we decided tell a few friends, and they were my tribe, and they totally agreed. They said, you know what? Allie doesn't need the anxiety. She doesn't need all these people telling her what baby carrier thing to buy. She just needs to focus on herself. So I'm so glad we did that. So I'm reaching my last couple ones. So laughter. We have to laugh, okay? Because all the stuff that happens in our life, like I said, doesn't make any sense, but we know that laughter is your best medicine, and because it releases endorphins, which makes you feel better, right? So, find again your tribe to be able to share your experiences and telling your story. Lady Charmaine, I know you do this a lot, and I appreciate you doing that, because who better to share that as far as somebody who knows what it is to go through that. And I know as a caregiver, it was very relieving for me to also share my story, because it reminds us all that we are heroes, that
Amen.
it is not an easy journey, right? So telling your experience is so important. I love Maya Angelou, and she says that there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you, and I think when you tell your personal experience, you don't know how you're going to impact somebody else, right? You could really save that person's life, or you can make them feel not alone, or give them the hope. So, don't be afraid to tell your story. And it doesn't have to always be verbally, it could be action wise, it could be gardening, making a beautiful bouquet. There's so many ways to do that, but I encourage people to tell their story. My last thing, and people will laugh at this, but Lady Charmaine, I told you before we went on live that I love to dance. Okay. I think dancing is, there's that saying, like dance like no one's watching, right?
Yes.
Right. Listen, life's not a dress rehearsal. Okay. You got to do it. So, you got to dance. Okay. And dancing doesn't mean you have to be the perfect tango or, the ballet dancer. Go and move, during the day, get up from your desk, dance with your partner, dance with your kid. Okay. Dance in public, because it just makes you feel alive, and my daughter, both of them can attest when there's a good, song that goes on in ShopRite or Price Chopper, I'll get down, because again, nobody's watching you. Nobody cares what you look like. And, these days, life's too short. We've got to make everything count. But thank you so much, Lady Charmaine, for giving me that time. It's good, as you mentioned too, for me to just remind myself, keep doing what we're doing. We're doing the best we can, and we will get through this. When the world opens up again fully, we'll be in a great, physical and mental state, and thank you for doing what you do too, Lady Charmaine. I know you've made such a difference in the communities that, that you and I both work in. And I'm so glad that I have you as a friend. I value you. You're part of my tribe, and I'm hope I'm part of your tribe.
You're part of my tribe, Tina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina. And Tina, thank you for sharing your beautiful 21 pearls of wisdom for caregivers to stay totally well, mentally, spiritually, and with their mind. Thank you. And you're getting a round of applause from the audience.
Thank you.
Yes. It was so helpful. Everything you shared with us was so impactful. You took from your storage chest of knowledge and wisdom, and you gave of yourself things to help other people not only survive, but thrive. And I just want to thank you. And thank you so much for being my friend, for coming on today, and for doing such a great job.
Love you.
Love you, Mama. Well, we have come to the end of our show. This episode of Taboo Talk was done because you are very, very special. And you deserve nothing less than the very best of what God has promised you. And God has promised you a wonderful, peaceful, happy, joyful, prosperous, abundant life. Continue seeking God's face in all that you do, and a wonderful life will occur for you. Taboo Talk, featuring me, Lady Charmaine Day, exists to help transform your mind, body, and spirit, utilizing the principles of Jesus Christ. Keep tuning in and listening to Taboo Talk for a word in season, like the one we got today from Tina Lee, who not only came in and did it, but she dropped down the science of how to be a good caregiver. Now, I'm not knowing about you, but for me, it helped me grow tremendously by listening to her pearls. And I promise you, I will continue to bring people like Tina Lee, who are subject matter experts in their body of knowledge, to help you grow, groove, and get to the next level. Why? Because you're special and you deserve it. Well, until next time, take care of yourself, stay special. Goodbye.